home for BamaOnLine.com. It is time for some summertime ranking update talk right here on the YouTube home for BOL. I'm Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnLine.com, joined by right there next to me. You see our site publisher, Tim Watson, down there today in the center square. We have senior recruiting editor Andrew Bone. And guys, it's one of those mile markers during the recruiting process that obviously we really look forward to right there with us at On3 and BamaOnLine.com. The update of the On3 300. And so, Tim Watts, we'll start with you. We've got some other things we want to get to as well. There's certainly been some news as it relates to even Alabama's 2024 class. So, Tim, if you want to start there, we can do that, or we can jump right into these ranking update.
Yeah, we can work into the rankings. We got Joe coming on the show in 15 or 20 minutes, kind of do a little bit of recap. But yeah, the news last night was that Steve, the defense, Steve from Canada, is headed to JUCO. He's a full qualifier. It's been a little bit confusing to explain, but he had to pass an international test to be able to go to college in the United States. He had everything else done. We had a message board poster who had a very educated post saying it's a hard test to pass. This isn't multiple choice. He tried a few times to get it, so they're going to send him to Mississippi JUCO. He'll be in Summit, Mississippi, and should be able to come back in January. He's that bandit for people wondering who the bandit would be. Wasn't seen as a guy who would be a big impact player, was expected to be this year. But it's going to get a chance for him to get over there. I know there's a lot of jokes, but he's going to be able to get a few classes and get his head start on coming to Alabama. And really, I mean, that's a guy, that lives in Quebec City, which we've talked about several times for being the Christmas capital of the world for many people. But there's like 50% of them speak French in the city, and of course he's from another country, so he had some obstacles to overcome. But not the worst case scenario. He'd have 4 years to play 3 when all's said and done.
So he also figures now to be more of a 2025. Boy, it's interesting when you think about rankings and ranking updates and how guys can kind of shift both ways, right, Andrew? Because when we think about this 2025 cycle, it no longer has a guy like Ryan Williams in it.
Yeah, that's right. I think that you look at 2025 class right now. I mean, overall, 20 commitments in this class. You have 2 guys that recently decommitted, but guys that we kind of expected. I don't think we're going to really see any reclassifications right now. I mean, I guess we can look at the 26 class and think, who might reclassify. There's been some talk that Jakeem Stewart, who's the number 1, number 2 overall player in the country, might reclassify, but I don't think he's really that involved with Alabama at this point. But I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see. I mean, Ryan kept it a secret for a long time. Everybody thought that was decided in the fall. It was actually decided kind of late spring, early summer that he was going to reclassify, and we knew that. We knew that was the plan all along. He just wanted to keep it quiet, but be interested to see if anybody else decides to jump on board and do that.
I just think it's crazy because reclassifying when me and Travis were in high school was called flunking. We reclassified backwards.
Tim,
I don't know many.
We red shirted. You might have gray shirted even, but
Yeah,
I red shirted.
I had a few shirts.
Blue shirt.
I rolled up to I rolled up to 7th grade in my El Camino. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing these guys can skip a whole year. Not totally surprising. My kids are had taken college classes while they were in high school. But it's pretty good to see them have those options. And then, we're going to see down the road, how does it even pay off for them? NIL wise, it's certainly going to pay off, but how is it development and everything else that goes with them? I see it a lot in basketball. Football is obviously different though.
NIL trying to get to that first NFL contract, maybe in some instances, but you're right, Tim, especially at positions like the line of scrimmage, right? I mean, those are developmental years. It's hard to kind of cut the line, so to speak, when you play offensive, defensive line, really just about anywhere on the football field. It's not an easy proposition, but guys, we again are going to talk about the latest rankings update for On3. Some movers both ways where this Alabama commitment list is concerned, as Andrew alluded to, Tim. couple of decommitments in the wake of Justin Hill's big commitment to the Alabama Crimson Tide since we last met. Surprise level with some of that news. Was there much from your perspective, or were these a couple of the guys that perhaps you thought if there are some movers away from this class, these guys could be those?
Yeah, with Miles Johnson, I think we knew what was kind of coming. He hasn't played. He was committed to the old staff. Kane Womack went in and got his inside backer room pretty quick, committed his guys. So we knew that was kind of coming. It actually took a lot longer than we expected, I think is the best way to put it. And then on Zamir Smith, I think that we saw the writing on the wall. You get a top 100 defensive back commitment. You get a 5-star defensive back commitment, both at cornerback. And he's also a guy that mentioned wanted to play some offense. And I got a feeling that was a pitch to them from Maryland, small pitch. I think he's a heck of a football player. If he ends up in Maryland as we expect, I think that would be a good fit for him, especially if he wants to play special teams and go both ways.
Andrew, it's summertime, and we see Alabama, even with the departures from this 2025 class of late, still sitting there with 20 commitments. Still something I'm still trying to get my head around. Maybe you are too, Tim, as well. But you think about previous years, right? And summertime commitments. It seemed like there were fewer, so they just stood out maybe a little bit more. I mean, Alabama's had some massive pickups this summer, and not to say that any of them aren't worth celebrating, but they come in such a bunch that maybe they get a little bit overlooked. Is there one or two of those that you think of with this class to this point where, if this had been a typical year, previous years, we might actually trumpeted this one a little bit more?
Yeah, you look back at some of the previous years. I always kind of look back at that COVID year. I think a lot of those guys ended up leaving Alabama for one reason or another, but it was still a pretty daggone good recruiting class with Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry and Dallas Turner and Deontay Lawson and J.C. Latham. I mean, it's a pretty good class. But I think those were kind of the main guys in the class. But yeah, I mean, you look back and you think Alabama had some successful summers. You look back at Justice Haynes when Alabama wasn't considered the team to beat. That was all Georgia, and then Alabama was able to get him in for an official visit. It's all about these official visits, and when officials started a few years back during the summer, now you can take officials in April, but when officials started back in the summer, that really changed the game with everything because kids were all taking their visits, they're making their decisions before the start of the season, and that really kind of changed the landscape of the recruiting cycle.
Tim, let's get into this latest update for the On3 300 and look at some of those again, movers and shakers. And you start with a big mover and shaker and big Michael Carroll, the offensive lineman from the state of Pennsylvania, committed to Alabama in the last month. And he is up 15 spots from his previous ranking. And he is also taking on that 5-star status where On3 is concerned.
Yeah, we're huge fans of Michael Carroll. I think we like his defensive film as much as we do his offensive film. I think Charles Power, Cody Blair, those guys had him at 12th in the country today. Every bit deserving of that, the top, consideration for the top inside offensive lineman. He does so many things, just a good evaluation and a great recruiting job by the Alabama staff to get in there on him and push, and kind of lock that down pretty quick. He still had visits planned, but to get that thing locked up and land a guy of that caliber. And you saw, again, those dominoes start to fall on that offensive line. And going back to your question to Andrew, yeah, we overlook a lot of guys that have committed because they do happen back. I mean, how many people have talked about Caleb Edwards lately? So, monster size tight end, beat out some major talent because next day Justin Hill committed. So the dominoes fall. Bobby Bowden used to do this to close out a recruiting class. That's why he had every class number one. Bama hadn't spread them out well, but boy, when they hit hard.
And when you think about, again, some guys that have moved up, Andrew, and you guys have kind of forecasted this, it's worked both ways in this latest rankings update. We've seen a guy or two at that position maybe, go down the rankings a little bit, but, Jackson Lloyd, he's another guy that's made a little bit of a move up.
Yeah, and Jackson's been, one of these guys that started out as a 3-star, and I remember when everybody was freaking out that, you know, offered a 3-star from California. This was the way that Alabama was going to start recruiting now. Then all of a sudden, every school in the country wants Jackson Lloyd, and he's a top 30 overall recruit per On3 Sports. I think a lot of the other sites are starting to catch up on that as well. But this is a class that we've talked about the offensive line unit a lot. And you have Mike Carroll, who's now number 12. You have Jackson Lloyd, who's number 26. I mean, this is a outstanding group of future offensive linemen in Tuscaloosa. Then if Alabama is able to potentially get Ty Haywood, who currently is RPM to Alabama per On3 Sports. I mean, he's ranked in the top 7 overall players in the country. This could be we've talked about it so many times, but this has a chance to really be a special offensive line class. But getting Mike Carroll, Jackson Lloyd on board last month was certainly very significant for Alabama's recruiting class.
Tim, how about Keelan Russell, Alabama's quarterback commitment? He's made a nice jump here in this latest rankings update. I'm sure there are some out there that feel it's not high enough given his performance at the Elite 11, taking MVP honors out there in Southern California. Give us your perspective on kind of the leap he's made, and is there still some ceiling for him? This isn't the last rankings update, right? So still some things that could play out too.
Yeah, I still think we're going to see you get a look. I don't think you have to be in a rush. I understand from a fan perspective, wanting to be in a rush and see everything. And look, the people on the BOL roundtable discussing whether he should be higher than 37 or whatever he is, they have valid points. He was really good this summer. He was Elite 11 MVP. He did well at the Rivals camp. All that stuff's true, but he also did make a jump from 80 to 37, almost 45 spots. And also On3 was the first one to have him in the top 100 when some fans were upset he was a 3-star SMU commitment, then moved him up there. I think talent-wise, we've seen everything we need to. I think he'll be watched heavily as a senior. I get the rush to be the 5-star, but again, he's went from 3 stars to 37 in the country. I think slower and getting it right's more important than anything. But I have no argument. People that think he's a 5-star or top 20 or top 15, hey, I see the same things they do. And I think he'll eventually get there.
Yeah, you think about some of the Alabama quarterback signees from the past, Andrew Bone. I did a little research on this before the show. I think Jalen Hurts, in terms of his industry ranking, composite, however you want to word it, he was 175 in his class. And Mac Jones was, I want to say, like 375 when it came to quarterbacks. So, look, they come in all forms and fashions. And we've also seen it the other way, where higher rankings haven't always been indicative or a guarantor of success at Alabama. And just, I guess, patience right now and perspective is what's needed, especially at the quarterback spot.
Yeah, looking back at Mac Jones, who would have thought he'd be the, looking at him now, he was the second best quarterback in Alabama's 2017 recruiting class, which is wild. But, I think as far as quarterbacks, top 100 guys, you got to be happy with the quarterback that you got. He won the Elite 11, one of the best high school football players in the country. If you're upset about the rankings, I mean, I know it's something that people care about, but it's not really that big of a deal, in my opinion. Not right now, at least, because you have an entire season coming up, and it's also a projection. It's not. This is how good this player is right now. It's just how good this player is projected to be 3 or 4 years down the road. That's kind of how the recruiting analysts look at it. They look at it from a NFL draft perspective. How good are they going to be? Are they going to be draft eligible type? Not draft eligible, with draft caliber type players over the course of the next couple of years. That's kind of how they look at things. They don't look at it, how good did they perform at the Elite 11? How good are they at the high school level? They're saying that Keelan Russell is one of the best overall players in the country at number 37 overall in the country. I remember, a guy like Dallas Turner or Will Anderson. Those guys weren't ranked 5 stars right off the gate, even when they went to camps and performed extremely well. It took a little bit of time. It took a national all-star event, like an high school All-American game before they got that 5th star. So I certainly think that Keelan's on track to get there. Just not there yet, but the fact that On3 just moved him 43 spots from where he previously was, I think that says a lot about how they feel about Keelan Russell.
And hey, he's at Duncanville. There's going to be a lot of eyes on him this year. He plays with Dak. Dak Moore, the number one wide receiver in the country, very strong team. So, again, this is a guy that's started 1 year and was committed to SMU. Again, great job by them. So, still plenty of time to watch there. And again, I think the jump, and I get the frustration, but I think the jump has been pretty consistent with what they think a really good player is.
And you've got plenty of time right now. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel right here for BamaOnLine.com. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications there, hit the bell. You'll get all of our YouTube content as it drops on the YouTube home for BOL. Also, if you don't mind, a little thumbs up. We'd appreciate that. That would help us out tremendously as well. So, as we get more and more into this rankings discussion, guys, I kind of look at the defensive backfield too. And boy, Alabama's done some nice work there between Derek Smith in state as a safety prospect who certainly could impact both sides of the ball, as we've seen from his high school tape, Tim Watts. And then also Dejon Lee, recently committed to the University of Alabama, sort of holding right there as a top 50 prospect overall.
Yeah, I think when you came in, you wanted to add those guys, and you were kind of curious what it would be like after last year's class, right? Very good class, some super talented guys. Nick Saban them almost flipped the entire room between the transfer portal, along with Kalen DeBoer and the guys that they signed. And then, what could you get this year? So this year we knew it wasn't going to be about quantity. We knew it was going to be about quality. And again, you've got Chuck. I'm not sure Chuck McDonald's not as good as Dejon Lee at the end of the day, and I think a lot of Dejon Lee, but that's two pretty good California cornerbacks coming in. Derek Smith, where we stand on him. Think he's got 5-star ability. Very quiet, low-key guy. You don't see a lot of him. He doesn't talk a lot. So that kind of factors in. But I think his senior year is a guy. I'm certainly excited to watch Derek as a senior.
And Andrew, Chuck McDonald with a nice jump too, right? Up into the top 100. You look at the big movers for Alabama on its commitment list in terms of guys who have gone up. Keelan Russell moved up 43 spots to 37 overall. And also Chuck McDonald up 23 to 98 overall for the 2025 cycle.
Yeah, you have to like that. I mean, this is certainly a kid that we weren't even talking about that much in the spring. Included Alabama in his top 4 in May, and then all of a sudden took an official visit and committed the week after. So, I think that Alabama's obviously done really well recruiting defensive back group, as Tim mentioned. And, Chuck McDonald and Dejon Lee, 2 West Coast kids that the staff had previous relationships with. They did a great job recruiting them. And then, as Tim mentioned, Derek Smith. I mean, that's a guy that we have talked about pretty much since the start of this show as a 5-star caliber player, but he just doesn't go out and do anything. He doesn't go out, doesn't go to camps, doesn't get seen, performs on Friday nights, performs on pretty much every position on Friday nights for his high school team. And I certainly think that he's going to have an opportunity this fall to make a 5-star statement. So defensive back class is great. They did lose Zamir Smith, but I think they're okay with that. And, we'll see kind of what else happens the rest of the way.
And with that, we're going to go quad box. Right now, we're going to bring in our recruiting analyst for us there at BamaOnLine.com. There he is, Joseph Hastings. He is properly attired in the requisite hoodie here on the program. You're not really on the show, JoJo, unless you have a hoodie.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Glad I can join the discussion. I'm sure everyone's taking it well. I know there's a lot of things to talk about with the rankings today, but I mean, 75% of Bama's classes in the On300 can't really get much better than that.
That's a pretty good way to look at it right there. And so, Joseph, we know you also for us right there at BamaOnLine.com. If you go to the website right now, you're probably on the website, but if you're not, go to the website, go to BamaOnLine.com. You'll see top 5 recruiting wins from a still ongoing, very, very cold summer as designated by GM Courtney Morgan. And so, tell us a little bit, Joseph, about that story and how tough it might have been to rank some of these wins and maybe even leave a couple on that sort of honorable mention list.
Yeah, so as I was going through it, I was thinking, okay, do I actually want to rank them, 1 through 5, and then I'll get some pushback if I put this person above that person in terms of recruiting battles. So I decided not to do the numerical ranking and threw in the honorable mention of Caleb Edwards, who was considering Auburn, had to throw in an in-state win there. But we talked about Justin Hill, the win over Ohio State. He's an Ohio kid, was predicted to go to the Buckeyes all the way up until commitment day. And it was just a massive win for Alabama for this new staff to, add Christian Robinson to the fold, to add additional primary recruiters after he was previously pursued by the Saban staff, and to make that transition as smooth as possible. So, he obviously deserved the mention. Dijon Lee, you're going up against Georgia, where they had the connection with Dante Williams, the former USC cornerbacks coach, going all the way out there. And Bama had the previously established relationships with Courtney Morgan and Kalen DeBoer. It was just a huge win. We've mentioned it before about how UGA had some confidence at one point in the spring, but Bama was able to come out on top. It was a very impressive win over two-time champion this decade. And then we also mentioned Michael Carroll, who chose Bama over the defending champions, Michigan Wolverines. So, yeah, we broke down a lot of good battles here, and obviously there's still some left to do battle with this summer with, Caleb Cunningham, A.K. Deere, Ty Haywood still out there.
What about it, Tim Watts? If there was a statement win to this point in this recruiting cycle for Kalen DeBoer and his staff, which one would you have maybe at the top of the list?
I'd probably go Justin Hill. That's a fresh one too. But you go into Ohio's, a lot of discussion that Alabama can't even compete with Ohio State. Literally seeing that discussion a lot, even on the round table. But Alabama's had some wins, and that's given full credit to how great a program Ohio State is, how great a class they're having. They recruit really well. They do a great job. So going in there into Ohio and beating them for a top target, this wasn't a guy they just wanted. This is a guy they were, trying to create a position for, the jack position, to give him a chance to play in it. So obviously a top target. So I'd lean Justin just because, it's a huge in-state, a huge out-of-state battle against a team that's number one in the team rankings.
Andrew, give me that guy for you to this point.
I think it's got to be Mike Carroll. 5-star recruit in Alabama's class, number 12 overall player in the country, out of Pennsylvania. Had not visited Alabama previously before the spring, and the coaching staff jumped on him a little bit later. But I thought that Coach Cap, Chris Kapilovich, did a great job. He had established an early relationship with him when he was at Michigan State, so that certainly helped. And then Courtney Morgan and Coach DeBoer also did a fantastic job recruiting him. But this is a kid that is a Penn State legacy, and heavily was considering Michigan as well. Michigan was a top team for him, and then Georgia kind of came on late, but they really made a push. Georgia was telling Mike that he was their number one offensive line target. Really made a push late in the process, but then he came in, took that official visit June the 7th. Decided to cancel officials to Michigan and Penn State and completely shut it down. So I thought that was a huge win for the Alabama staff out of state, especially for an offensive lineman who is now the highest ranked player in Alabama's recruiting class.
Tim, for the uninitiated, where the ranking updates and the ranking process is concerned, can you give a little bit of an outline of what actually goes into this process? And, obviously you have a lot of confidence in how this process works. You're very much on record as feeling that our people at On3 are as well equipped and capable of doing this type of job as anyone in the industry. So tell us a little bit about what exactly goes into it.
I tell you what doesn't go into it. It's the fill in the blank bump, because you can't go to 10 sites and there be a bump for 10 different teams. You can't have 10 Bama, Ohio State, Georgia. You can't have all those bumps or there'd be no damn ranking. You can't have everybody bump. The agenda's not that deep, but yeah, this goes into junior film, sophomore film, leading into junior film. It goes into 7-on-7, anything they can see them live. If they can see them play basketball, baseball, Jackson Lloyd's a 3-sport athlete. That definitely would help a guy like that, because it shows his athleticism. He's not the only one. Do they play too well? Two ways. But the exposure is the biggest thing, and it starts with the film. I'm old school. If I could only pick one way to evaluate a player. I'm going off the film. I'm going to have to guesstimate his height or his speed. That's kind of your job at that stage. But I think you go to the film, and that film, and hey, the exposure is a lot better now with Huddle. I remember driving around the state and calling coaches and getting video to send to the video lab back at Rivals just to get them just to get them up there. You talk about conspiracy theories before there was film. That was at another level. That was Area 51 conspiracies. Now you can at least go in and see what kind of player you're looking at to form your own opinion. But there's a lot more to it than just just seeing a Twitter highlight and ranking them. They put a lot of work into this. They have hours discussions about it, hours with film. A lot goes into it. And then at the end of the day, it's a human opinion. And we see guys with much bigger staffs and much bigger budgets, like in college, miss on guys every year, hundreds of them. And then we see the NFL do it with the biggest budget of all. Yep. They've had four more years of access to them, and they still miss on their draft picks. And I'm not talking their 6th round pick. I'm saying they will muck up they will mess that up in the top 5 picks. So that's how hard it is to work with it.
Interesting stuff from Tim Watts. And of course, again, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel right here, we certainly hope you'll take the time right now to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you get all of our YouTube content as it drops, and hit that like button if you don't mind. That would help us tremendously as well. Also, of course, we scratched the surface right here on the YouTube channel for BamaOnLine.com. But if you want to go deep dive with guys like this, then you need to be with us at BamaOnLine.com. We got the $1 for 1 month offer. Be sure to check that out. Head over to BamaOnLine.com right now. Join us on the roundtable, our premium message board. No better way to kind of mix it up with fellow Bama fans while also getting one-of-a-kind information from Tim Watts, from Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, the rest of our staff, then right there with us at BamaOnLine.com. So, Joseph, now, again, I talked about it earlier, the days like this feel like mile markers as we move throughout the process. So you get through another rankings update. What's one of the things maybe now that will kind of gather your attention? I know Alabama later this month is going to have another big recruiting event, but still some possibilities out there for some major commitments here in the coming days and weeks.
Absolutely, and I just wanted to add some things about the rankings update. Since I wasn't, in that discussion earlier, 15 commits, are in the On300. That's the second most to Ohio State, which is at 16. In the updated On300, they've got 9. Bama does 9 in the top 100 overall. That's the most out of any program out there. And, we did see the rises of Michael Carroll going up 15 spots to 5-star status, Keelan Russell, 43 spots, Chuck McDonald, 23. And, some guys stayed the same as well. And senior season evaluation will be key there. But I thought, they're just where things stand out right now. You have to be very happy if you're an Alabama fan and they stay at number 2 in the rankings, still within possibility of getting to that number 1 spot. And in order to get to that number 1 spot, you're going to have to win some more battles, as we talked about. Caleb Cunningham, Ty Haywood, A.K. Deere, to answer your question, Travis. Those are kind of the ones we're looking at next, just in terms of, those next up-and-coming battles that Alabama is going to have to win. They're going to try to win. It would be huge, not only for this class, adding another wide receiver, another top wide receiver to go alongside Latsier Brooks, one of the top running backs in the country, in A.K. Deere, and a premier offensive tackle to round out that offensive line class, but it could definitely significantly boost where they're at in the rankings. So, yeah, we'll be paying attention, and if there's any more surprise decisions to be made in the coming weeks.
What's got you locked in now, Andrew, as far as what might be on the immediate horizon?
I think just watching and seeing what everybody else is doing. You always kind of focus on your team, and that's what we've been focused on for the last several months. Who's getting offered, who's coming in for visits, who's committing, who's potentially committing elsewhere. But looking at some of these other classes around the country, like Georgia, who else are they going to be able to add? Oregon. Oregon's on a hot streak right now. Of course, Ohio State, that's another one. This is a race to the number 1 recruiting class in the country in this cycle. And I don't know if it's going to be wrapped up by August 1st. But most of these classes are going to be pretty full. You kind of just have to hang on all the way until December the 4th during that early signing period. But it's going to be an interesting race. And, these rankings that were released today, there's going to be a couple more rankings updates. We'll see how that all unfolds in the coming months. But it's going to be an interesting, battle for that top spot with these 4 schools. And, there could be another school or two that pop in there. But I think it comes down to those 4 schools in the end.
What about it, Tim Watts? I mean, we talk about addition so much when we think about these recruiting classes, but as we were reminded here in the last 4 or 5 days, there can be some attrition where your existing commitment list is concerned. So, where are you at in terms of your focus and where this class might be headed next?
I just think it's halftime of the recruiting game. I mean, all the coaches are off until June, July 26, 27 or whatever. That's pretty much across the board. I think they're all the across the nation getting that time off during the dead period. It's funny because everybody's like, it feels slow. It's literally the dead period. We go through this every year. They didn't call it the slow down a little bit period. They call it the dead period. It's dead, but there's still a lot of, if you're watching everybody else, like Andrew said, there's a lot of stuff. LSU's getting commitments. Oregon got a huge commitment out of Texas. Texas is having an interesting cycle where they've missed on some guys. But for me, I just think it's as simple as just getting to the season. When it comes to rankings, I love discussing rankings. We can talk about them all year. I don't like the overreaction. There's a whole senior year to play, and we've seen 1,000 guys have senior years that can't be denied with huge ranking bumps. I can say Josh Jacobs is one, but there's more than that. There's plenty of guys that'll come in out of nowhere, guys that shake their body. London Simmons, pretty excited to see this guy. He's dropped 40 pounds. He was pretty athletic and active at 340, so at 300. So, I mean, I enjoy the ranking discussion. I just think it's, to me, been doing it so long, knowing how the process has played out, having been part of the process, I know it's more about those February rankings. So for some, this is your chance to gripe, knowing that it's going in the right direction. Because when Keelan Russell gets a 5th star, if he does, there's nothing left to gripe about. We'll have to find something else. So I love this time of year, and I'm glad to have the discussion. I enjoyed it late last night before I was going to bed.
Yeah, there you go. Sweet dreams, Tim Watts, with those rankings discussions bouncing around like sugar plums in his head.
Well, there's a thread started when the 3 of y'all were sound asleep. A thread popped up at like 11:30. It's like boot
right.
time. I was like, what the heck? I was like, what's going? Is anybody seeing this? Everybody's like, we're out like a light.
I saw a text when I got up with my daughter at 2:30, and I was like, nope, I'm not looking at it yet.
Yeah, you don't want to jump in there. It had died down by then, but a really good discussion. Obviously, Keelan Russell's a huge discussion point, as he should be. He's earned a lot of the respect he's getting.
He is, and that's a very notable jump that he's made in the latest rankings. And in some cycles, right, Joseph, there's going to be bigger jumps than other. Look at Latsier Brooks. I think people look at him right now in the On3 300 at right around 100 and go, why isn't he higher? But he's already made a massive jump, hasn't he?
Yeah, he did. He went from unranked, not in the on 300 to number 100 in the country. And the thing is, what lots here we talked about Derek Smith, doesn't really go out on the camp circuit too much. There's a lot of this local 7-on-7 events. So once he gets out onto the national scene, he puts out his senior film, maybe gets invited to an all-star game, we'll see. That's when he'll be able to really showcase his skill set. And as Tim mentioned, the rankings are finalized in early 2025, so we'll really know then. But I don't want to say it's easier to make the jump that Latsier did, going from not nationally ranked to number 100, because it's an extremely impressive jump. I don't want to minimize that, but to going from an under the radar type prospect to where he went to, compared to Keelan Russell, who's already a top 100 well-known recruit, someone that On3's already been high on, going from number 80 to what Alabama fans were hoping for, a 65 spot jump to number 15. That just, you don't see it that much. I'm not saying that I haven't seen it before, but it's kind of rare to see that with someone who's already in the top 100. So he's improving his stock, went up 43 spots, and has a senior season and All-American Bowl to increase his rankings again.
Yeah, that sounds like value when I think about a guy like that in terms of the evaluation process and kind of being early to market like Alabama appeared to be with Latsier Brooks, not just with this staff, but perhaps even to the previous staff. And Andrew, you talk about value guys right now in this class and relative to their rankings, even after today's update. Who's a guy or two that you sort of look at in that regard? Some people might say they're underrated. I kind of look at it as valuable and have a lot of value based on, again, where they're positioned in the rankings.
I think someone like Jaden Harmon, who's ranked number 128 in the On300. I mean, this is a kid that you go turn on the film. I mean, you're not going to find there's not many linebacker films better than Jaden Harmon's throughout the entire country. And he competes in a lot of 7-on-7. Doesn't go to a lot of high school prospect camps, but I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on him this fall. How well is he going to do during his senior season at Rome? I think he's going to have an opportunity to really make a big jump in the rankings. But I consider him. You look at all the guys that are ranked in that top 100 right now. I think he's right in there with those guys. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 50 overall guy by the end of this recruiting cycle. I mean, he is a hard hitting linebacker. He's fast. He plays physical, and he's certainly one of the guys that I feel like probably one of the most underrated players in this recruiting class so far.
Who's that guy for you, Tim Watts?
With Dawson Merritt falling out of the top 100, I'm going to go with him. Joseph, you can't be me. You're wearing the hoodie, but you can't be me. I saw Joseph like LeBron James when Kawhi came back in that championship. He's like, damn. That's a famous thing with that championship. LeBron's at the free throw line. He looks here's Buzz. He sees Kawhi. That's what Joseph did. But Dawson falling out of the top 100. I go back to this. He reminds me a lot of Noah Carter, who we absolutely loved, right, in unison when we saw his film. Absolutely. I remember all of us talking about athleticism. That's who he reminds me of, and that's what Alabama recruited him for. Really fast off the edge, super athletic, can get out in space and play. I think I'm not saying he's necessarily underranked, but I think he's undervalued because I think he's not as good as Justin Hill. But I think Justin Hill's going to make a push to that 5-star category possibly. I think he's going to be in the discussion when people saw him because he's different. And I think Dawson's a guy that can move up as a senior as well.
Joseph, your turn. In the show chat with a vote for Luke Metz, the linebacker commitment.
Don't steal his answer too, Joseph.
You got any others to add? We kind of led you in with Latsier earlier, but maybe you got another one.
No, I'm going to go with Metz then. I'm gonna steal Jeff's answer on that one. Yeah, I mean, look, he's not currently in the On300. I think he definitely has a case to make it. Sometime during his senior season. Look, this is a guy who was pursued by the likes of Oklahoma, Tennessee, Alabama, of course, and then got that offer from Georgia in May. And they put on a heavy pursuit for him. Got him on campus for an official visit. Glenn Schumann was in touch with him pretty much on a consistent, regular basis. Heavily pursued by Georgia. So, when you look at the offers, it definitely matches up with a guy who, is highly sought after and, could be deserving of an On300 rankings appearance at some point. And you turn on the film too and, see somebody who's aggressive and, another physical playing linebacker, really good size where he's at right now. Interested to see where he ends up physically at the end of the day. But I think since Tim took my guy, I did do the LeBron look on that one. But it would have been Dawson Merritt. I think that's an excellent choice, just because of where I thought he could have been somebody who rose up too. And you look at his NFL pedigree, that's something you have to take into consideration as well when projecting a guy like him. I would go with Metz for my answer.
So between Tim Watts, Joseph Hastings, and Andrew Bone, our guys here like those linebackers. So remember that. And there's
so many
from which there are plenty to choose.
I was about to say there's so many to choose from. Ask the Bama fans. There's so many.
It's like
75% of the commits are in the top 300. 75% are linebackers. If you ask the BOL Roundtable fans,
that's right.
And if you're not with us on the Roundtable, you should be. Hang out with us right there at the round table on BamaOnLine.com. Again, we've got the $1 for 1 month special. So if you aren't already with us at BOL, absolutely no excuse, absolutely no better time to jump on board with BamaOnLine.com than right now. And of course, also subscribe right here to our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. We'd like a thumbs up if you don't mind. A like would help us out as well, and we would certainly appreciate that. The crowds continue to grow, man, for these live shows, and we absolutely dig it, Tim Watts.
Yeah, we love the fan. I, again, never thought I'd enjoy doing this, kind of kicking and screaming, drug into it. It's a good mixture to go with the round table. I mean, I know Andrew's jealous because he was the best looking guy on the show when it was just him. Now he's fallen to a distant fourth.
Yeah.
He's a distant fourth, just
Yeah.
because we can't do whatever the 5 box would be called. But yeah, I enjoy it and have fun. The round table, we're having good discussion right now, and it's a good, healthy debate. What else are we going to do in July but argue? You know what I mean? What games are you going to win? Who should be ranked higher?
It's healthy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's good for the soul. We got to get to the season somehow.
Yeah, got to get to late July and the start of. I mean, we are in the month that fall camp will get underway at the University of Alabama. Think of it that way. I mean, we're pretty much there, guys, but we will certainly help you get the rest of the way right there at BamaOnLine.com and right here on the YouTube home for BOL. Guys, always great stuff. Always a lot of fun. Always a lot of great information. Again, even more so right there at BOL. Anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, for the time that we're waiting until fall camp, and if you have some pent up emotions, anger about anything on the rankings, whatever, just direct it at Andrew Bone on the BOL roundtable. He'll handle all of that for sure. I'm just messing around, but yeah, we love it. We love the discussions. It's always great being able to do these live shows and talk on the BOL roundtable too. So. Yeah, I'm very excited. Glad everyone joined and the discussion. I'm looking at the comments right now. It was awesome. A lot of good stuff in here. So
really glad. Your text message comments. You're gonna feel different. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, geez.
I've been texting you this whole show. No, I haven't. Thank you, Kathy. Yes, please like and subscribe. Yeah, we do have a fun time. Somebody made a comment. Travis Smith got some crystal balls. Our predictions to Alabama.
Jermaine Mims here.
Jermaine, follow the round table, and you'll know how to follow this recruiting thing. As of today, we don't think that would be an accurate commitment to Alabama for Travis Smith. Jermaine, follow us. We will lead you. We will lead you to the promised land. We do not think Travis Smith, as of now, will be in this class.
Andrew, we appreciate you too. I don't want you feeling left out here at the end.
Well, I've been gone for a month, So
it must be nice, right, to go on vacation and not do these shows. I mean, tell me how that works, because I'd love to hear about it.
You take 2 kids under 3 years old, it's just far from vacation.
I was thinking, how hard can it be to do the show? And I called him one day, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, now I get it." There's so much. We remember those days, Travis.
We do.
He had all kind of relatives there. I just thought it was 4 of them. I didn't know it was 10 or 12 of them.
Oh, at Riderpalooza, we're 30, 40 deep.
It was loud. It was.
Jack Daniels don't have a chance.
The thing is, they all have their kids too, so there's no help. You're in charge of your own kids.
Yeah.
So it was it was good, but we survived. As far as what we've got coming up on BOL, come to BOL tomorrow. I've got a great interview with Dawson Merritt's father, David Merritt. Talked a lot of great things about the recruiting process, how they chose Alabama, all that good stuff. I think Alabama fans will really enjoy it. He's also become friends with Taylor Swift during the last couple months, being on biggest super fan in the world. So David Merritt, his father is a coach for the Chiefs. So we talked about that. I had a really good conversation. So I think y'all enjoy it. Cookout on July the 28th. We got an early list on BOL of the names that are going to be coming in for that event. We'll continue to add more names in the coming weeks, but a really good list already on BOL right now. So go check out that story, and thank you all for watching the show today.
See, Bone,
you're a huge Taylor Swift fan, right?
Yeah.
Say what?
Tim's a huge Taylor Swift fan. I know. I think she's in the top 3 on Spotify.
No, I never know who sings anything. I hear the songs. I'm terrible about artists, and then there are people like I had no idea. 3 years ago, I had no. I honestly had no idea, probably 5 years ago, that Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber could sing. I was kind of amazed. I just thought they were like new kids on the block, processed pop stars. I had no idea they were actually pretty talented. But a lot of the songs, I know the song. I don't necessarily know the singer.
I'm indifferent to Swift. I mean, hey, good for anybody that it's good for, right? Hey, that's the way I look at it.
I've got a friend,
Sarita,
a friend of mine seeing her in Milan this week.
No kidding.
She was in Spain when we were there. She was going to be in Madrid there. I don't mind the music though. It's the and Dave Matthews has that. They have like this ultimate, and the Grateful Dead, this ultimate following where you could get jumped for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. These Swifties will kick you down, and the Beavers or whatever they were called, they would bust you up too at one point.
They've got Nicki Minaj. I think it's called the Barbs or something like. Yeah, you got to be very careful with those discussions.
I see it on Twitter.
That's why I don't say I don't like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I just say I'm indifferent.
Yes.
So I'm Switzerland, right? When it comes to Taylor Swift. So I'm not really involved in any.
I would like to talk to Travis Kelce and see. He went from famous, like sports famous, to like next level insanity stalker famous. That's what I'd like to talk to Travis Kelce. Like, how is his life changed?
I mean, is he getting the work in this summer? I mean, from a football perspective.
He was on the stage with her recently in the last week. I saw him on TMZ. He's not doing football work.
I mean, he's a hell of a player, but he's getting at that age where he's got to keep the off-season game up, doesn't he?
I'm not sure Kelce ever really got after it. He's got a little Gronk in him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's just that good. Maybe that.
I'll send him my workout plan. He can.
You're dating a billionaire or whatever, and football's it's kind of all right.
Jeff Come for the recruiting discussion. Stay for the Taylor Swift.
Right. This is the after show officially.
I think we've got more fans. I think we've got more people on here because the Taylor Swifties heard and they came here like, wait, what are they saying?
Came back. They circled
back. We love her.
They have
Swifties, you're gonna watch this one.
They have an alert. They have an alert at all times.
Put Taylor Swift in the title.
Yeah.
Football YouTube's Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Jeff Hughes says he's getting hungry. It's lunchtime, guys.
It is, Jeff. He wants nuggets.
A little turkey.
Don't let Jeff Hughes trick you.
Yeah. I'm going to settle for a turkey sandwich.
I could post right now. I got new Nikes. Somebody say, hey, what are you hearing on Ty Haywood? Are we getting nuggets? I literally have to start the threads on the round table. Like,
does that mean Oregon? Nike? You got new Nikes. Does that mean Oregon?
Yeah, today I said FYI.
We got
not a nugget.
We got to drop some nuggets. Take away from the
FYI.
All right. I'll check us out, guys, for the very best of the best. It's these three guys when it comes to Alabama recruiting. Tim Watts, Joseph Hastings, and of course, Andrew Bone. Find all of their great work, our great work right there at BamaOnLine.com. And again, thanks to so many of you turning out for the live show. And if you missed it or you caught just a part of it, no worries. It's going to archive right there on the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. Yet another reason to subscribe to our channel. We would certainly appreciate it with that. And so for Tim, for Joseph and Andrew, Travis Reier, thanking you once again for joining us. Until next time, so long, everybody.